These are difficult days. Let's gather around the Beatitudes and discover the blessings in our midst.
If you are watching on Facebook Live, I know it was a little late kicking in right now, so I hope you're with us now. You missed the wonderful hello from the Steinke family. You know, there are some interesting aspects to preaching on the internet. For example, if you're watching right now, live, you have to live with my sermon as it unfolds, just however it goes. But if you're watching this service a little later on an archived video, you can scroll ahead during a sermon. This might be the greatest innovation in Christian worship ever. I can't tell you how many times I've been sitting in worship ready to receive a good word from the preacher, and I love that, but then sometimes the sermons can get a little repetitive or a little slow, and if you could just scroll forward, I think that's awesome. But maybe you didn't just hear me say that. You might have already scrolled forward to hear our choir sing. There are some interesting aspects to preaching on the internet, but I want to seize one of them. So I'm preaching to you live, and if you're in Facebook Live or YouTube chat, I want you to send a word that you think should be added to my sermon, some good thought or some little piece. I've got my phone with me, and Patrick will be watching the chat, and he'll text me. So if a thought occurs to you, so often when we're together in worship, right after worship, people will come up to me and give me these awesome little additions. So make my sermon better today. Send a thought and I'll check the text. Now, Mom, if you're watching me, don't call me right now. I'm preaching. My mom's in Door County, Wisconsin. Don't call me right now. There are some weird aspects to preaching on the internet. Last week, I was making what I thought was a really incisive point. I was talking about the Beatitudes, the first part of my sermon series, and I was using the word beatitude, which is from the Latin translation of the Bible, and I was going to the Latin root beati, which means blessed persons. And so instead of saying blessed are the poor, blessed are the meek, I was using the Latin root beati and saying that Jesus was beatifying the poor. Beatified are the poor. Beatified are those who mourn. That's a radical elevation of each and every person because Jesus valued each and every person. He would beatify each person. And beatify, of course, is the process the Pope uses to radically elevate someone before they're canonized as a saint, the beatification process. They're lifted to heaven. So I thought I was making a good point, but on Facebook Live, if you have the translator on, you're seeing the translation come in. And last week, every time I said beatify the poor, Facebook Live printed out, Spotify the poor. Spotify those who mourn. Totally ruined my point, I think. But hear the point. Jesus saw the intrinsic, inherent, infinite value of each and every person. He beatifies each one of us. So now I'm in the second part of this sermon series, and I'm going to go to the last four Beatitudes. Let's get into these. I begin with verse 7. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Mercy is right at the core of what Christianity is about. Mercy. I've had so many people describe to me that when they first start coming to church or they first come to Christianity, they sense that they are radically accepted. They're completely forgiven. They receive mercy. You see, the religion itself is to be this vehicle of mercy and grace. Each person completely forgiven. It's awesome. Mercy. Pope Francis tells a story again and again about his call into the priesthood. One day as a 16-year-old, he was on his way to a picnic Actually, he was going to go meet a girl. He had no idea he'd be entering the priesthood. And he stopped on the way in Buenos Aires by the local church with this beloved pastor. Pope Francis was already a devout Catholic, but he loved this priest, and he went in for confession. And he describes that during that act of confession, he experienced an overwhelming mercy, that God completely accepted him and forgave him of everything. A mercy. He decided to enter the priesthood. I don't know what happened to the girl at the picnic, but then in his papacy, he chose a motto. Oh, it's interesting. Miserando atque elehendro. It's hard to translate from the Latin, but it's something like, I've received mercy, and now I'm chosen to show mercy. This is the motto of his whole papacy, to show God's mercy to others. So, how merciful are you? We can be very hard on others. How merciful are you? We can be hard on ourselves. We can be so unforgiving about our own flaws and foibles. And if you're too hard on yourself, guaranteed, you'll be hard on those around you. So, how merciful are you? This is an essential question to our faith. I know we love to say to people or ask, are you a Christian? Or are you a believer? But it goes more to the center to simply ask, how merciful are you? How merciful. I know we think of Christianity as a set of beliefs, but it's less a set of beliefs than it is a way of life. How merciful are you? Blessed are those who are merciful. And now verse 8. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Let's look at the first part of that phrase. Blessed are the pure in heart. I worry about that English translation. The word pure in English sounds like it means perfection, without any taint, pure. But the Greek word is katharos, and it doesn't really mean perfection. Katharos means clean, or that which is acceptable to God. So really in the Greek it's saying, do you have an acceptable heart? Do you have a good heart? Not perfect. Nobody's got a perfect heart. Nobody. But the English, I don't like this translation, to take katharos and say pure. It makes it sound to our ears like it means, are you just perfect? Nobody's perfect. You have a good enough heart, a heart that is acceptable to God. And the second part of this phrase, they will see God. This is a really intense biblical phrase. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. In 1 John chapter 4, it says no one has ever seen God. This is an intense phrase. Blessed are the pure in heart, they will see God. That's more than just going to heaven. That's as if it's being at the right hand of God. Oh, I love this. Blessed are those with good hearts. They will see God. Now, you know that I'm a Christian pluralist. I believe that Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior, and I'm following or trying to follow His way. But I also believe other religions are true vehicles of grace and mercy and can be a path to God. I'm a pluralist. Christianity is my way, but I believe other religions are true also. Well, do you hear this phrase? Blessed are the pure in heart, they shall see God. Here, Jesus is not saying, blessed are Christians, they're the ones that will see God. Oh, hear the inclusivity of this phrase. Blessed are all those with a good heart. They'll see God. They'll go to heaven. Sometimes we like to seize more exclusive phrases in the New Testament. Everybody goes to John 14 and says, no one gets to the Father but through me. I am the way, the truth, and the life. More exclusive phrases. They don't often go to this phrase when he just says, oh, you have a good heart? You're going to heaven. Whether you're a Jew or Muslim or Buddhist you'll see God. If you have a good heart, good intentions. Let's go to verse 9. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Now, if you're in my generation, you can't hear the phrase blessed blessed are the peacemakers without thinking of blessed are the cheesemakers, that line from Monty Python and The Life of Brian. Do you remember that scene? Because it's comic genius. Jesus is giving the Sermon on the Mount, and in that movie, the crowd is huge, and out to the outer fringes of the crowd, people are having trouble hearing Jesus. And so some of the Monty Python troops standing there, and they ask someone next to him, what did he just say? And the guy turns around and says, he said, blessed are the cheesemakers. And then another guy says, oh, but don't take Jesus literally. He means all manufacturers of dairy products. Do you remember that scene? It's comic genius. And what a point it makes. I wonder myself, am I too far away from Jesus to hear him clearly? I wonder if the Christian church is too far away from Jesus to hear him clearly. We're 2,000 years removed across time and space in a very different cultural location. Are we hearing Jesus clearly? I wonder that all the time. Monty Python went right to an important point. Do we hear him? Blessed are the peacemakers. Do you know how there are some people that just add more peace to a situation? Then there's other types of folks that create antagonism or enmity. Are you peaceable? Have you noticed some people have this gift to just bring a calm to any setting? Like police officers, when they're good, they can de-escalate a situation, decompress it. There's some police officers in Lincoln that I've seen that are just wonderful at this. They bring a type of peace and calm into a situation. Are you peaceable? That's a very central question to our faith. Are you peaceful? I know we love to think that religion is a bunch of information that you give your assent to. It's either creeds or doctrines. But religion, our faith, this would be a better question. Rather than to ask, do you accept Christian doctrines? Ask, are you peaceful? These blessings go right to the core. Are you merciful? Do you have good intentions? Are you peaceful? Those are the questions we should ask ourselves. And now I go to the last of the Beatitudes. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. I think I mentioned last week that the word righteousness, in English, it has negative connotations. We think of righteousness as this superior, condescending piety that's holier than thou, right? In English, it's got negative meanings. But really, in the Bible, righteousness is a synonym for justice. Are you willing to be persecuted for justice, for what's fair, for equality? Blessed are those who stand for what's right. Do you see how these go right to the essence of Christianity? We should ask, rather than are you a believer, we should say, are you willing to stand for what's right? I'm thinking right now of Martin Luther King. He certainly was persecuted for standing for what's right, but I don't mean that. I mean, in his philosophy, he thought that it was essential in any struggle to maintain the higher moral ground, that you are guaranteed to lose any struggle if you abdicate what is the highest ethical stance. And so Martin Luther King would only use nonviolence. Any sort of violent opposition would be to abdicate the higher moral ground of the civil rights struggle. He stood for what was right. So here are these basic questions, my friend. Are you merciful? Do you have a good heart, good intentions? Not perfect, good enough. Are you peaceable? Will you stand for what's right? Oh, I've got to check if I've received a text from Patrick to see if I could improve my ending. Oh, listen to what this person says. In this time of the pandemic, Lori says, our PPE is patience, perseverance, and encouragement. Well, and so I hope this service brings you greater patience, perseverance, and encouragement in this time of the pandemic. Amen.